Welcome to an all-new episode of Excel TV, where we help you excel your skills, your career, your business, and your life. Today, I'm going to talk to you about building a Power BI report. Now, I like to call it a dashboard. They're actually called reports, but we're going to do it from scratch, and I'm going to show you how quickly you can make it. Here's what I'll say. Stay until the end, because I'm going to give you a link to the data. I'm going to give you the dashboard, and I'm even going to give you some resources so you can learn too. It's all happening here. Stay tuned on Excel TV. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jordan Goldmeier. I'm author of Dashboards for Excel, Advanced Excel Essentials, and I'm also a Microsoft MVP. Here I am in Brooklyn, New York, in my luxurious basement apartment. Now, those who've watched the last show would know that I said I didn't love Power BI because I love the challenge of Excel, but man, over the weekend I created a Power BI report and I think I'm in love. I really like it. I have to admit I was wrong about it. It's very cool, and I'm gonna show you why I love it, because we're gonna see how quickly I make a dashboard, and hopefully you can follow along and make one of your own and feel inspired to make one of your own. But before I go on, I just want to give a big shout out to Alex Powers of itsnotaboutthecell.com. Alex took time over the weekend to give me a bit of a crash course in Power BI. Now, what I've built is not perfect, but it's gonna help me get over the edge. And you know, I'm on this learning journey just like you. I'm learning Power BI, so I'm hoping you can take this journey with me. So without further ado, let's get to it. Now, you may hear me use the term dashboard, but technically Power BI calls this a report. A dashboard is actually a different technology that they have as part of their Power BI service. So I may use it interchangeably. I wrote dashboards for Excel. To me, this is a dashboard. But hey, to each their own. But if I use that term instead of saying report, and I'm going to watch myself, just know that I'm actually talking about a Power BI report. So despite the fact that I called this Power BI crime dashboard, Power BI considers this a report. So what I have here is I went to the New York City Open Data website, and I downloaded a lot of different, and excuse me, I should rephrase that. I downloaded one data set that had a whole bunch of different reported crimes on it. And then you can see I have this map in here, and then I have some filters over here. What I can do is, if I deselect this and I only am interested in, let's say, New York City Sheriff's Office, I can go ahead and click that. I can click the New York City Parks. And what this will do is update the map. And then you'll see that it actually updates the different total amounts of crimes across the boroughs. The other thing that I can do here is I have this date filter. And what I can do with that is, let's say I want to find out the last 30 months. And you'll see that this data is not perfect, but I'm going to go to months calendar here to make it more correct. And we'll see why that works in a second. But as I've updated that, it's actually updated the map and it's updated the total crimes. And then over here, we have the crimes reported over the entire time horizon that our data spans. Now, the data set is very big. I modified it just to really get it a lot smaller. And even then, as I went through the data, it's not perfect. But you can see that we have this update here. And then I have the breakdown of the different categories. So I have misdemeanor, felony, violation. And if you know about Power BI, you know you can click on this. Let's say I click on felony, and it's actually going to filter it, allow you to drill down, as it were. And one of the cool things about Power BI is when you do this, it's all connected. So again, remember before I said I loved Excel, but look how quickly you can do this stuff. To build this type of interactivity in Excel requires a lot more infrastructure. I still love the challenge of it, but I actually really enjoy this too. So let's go ahead without further ado and just build this on our own. And I'll probably end up referring back to this as I go through it. Now, I'm actually doing this from my memory, and we'll see how far I get. So I'll just admit if I do anything wrong. And if you're watching this and you already know Power BI, or you know some tips and tricks that you're a little more familiar with, please tell me down below in the comments. I would definitely love that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some data, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to pull up our get data dialog. Notice you can get data from a lot of different sources. I already know what source I'm going to get it from, this text CSV. I'm going to go ahead and click connect on that, and then I have my crime dashboard folder. So I have this New York City complaint map. It has the historic data. And Power BI is going to connect to it. This data set's pretty big, about 200 megabytes. But even so, take a look at this, how quickly it was able to create it. So look, here is, I shouldn't say all of our data. Here is the first 200 rows. So Power BI opens up this query editor and allows you to see kind of at a glance what your data set looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click load here. Okay, so our data set is loaded. So I could have also hit edit, but the other thing I could do is I could just go over here to our data sets tab, and this is going to actually show the query of the data. So remember, here's your visual layer, that's your report. Now we can go to the data, and then we can use these to create different relationships and models. So there's a lot of information in here that I probably don't need, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to actually just go through it very quickly. So I'm not going to go ahead and delete it. It's something that you can do if you'd like. But remember, what it does here is it's going to show you the data, and you can go ahead, if you're following along, and take a look yourself and see what you can do with it. Now, one of the things you might want to do as you go through here is just make sure that all your data types are what you want them to be. So the new Power BI is actually very good at converting these data types. So you can see I'm going to click on KYCD. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but you see it came in as a whole number. So some of these things won't always come in correctly. So what we can do is we can make our life a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and to this latitude over here. And you see this came in as data category uncategorized. So I can go ahead and I can click on this drop down here. And you see that this is latitude. And if I click on this drop down, there's something in here that says latitude. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. That's going to actually tell Power BI not to, it's going to tell Power BI that I want it to be explicit. So Power BI is smart enough to know that that could be latitude, but we're going to go ahead and tell it to be explicit. And then over here under default summarization, I never really want this to be summarized. Why would you summarize a latitude or a longitude? So I'm going to go ahead and click don't summarize, and I'm going to do the same thing with longitude. So I'll go over here, I'll click data category, I'm going to click longitude here, and then under data summarization, I'm going to just click don't summarize. So that takes care of that. Now I could look at this, I could probably get rid of the x coordinates, the y coordinates, I probably could get rid of the lat long, but I'm actually going to keep that here for now because I may end up using it later. I probably won't, but think about that as you build your own work. Now, one other thing here is that we're going to actually work with a calendar table. So early versions of Power Query and the like, you had to build another, or you had to do some sort of tricks to get the calendar table working. But the reason we want to do that is because we have all these dates over here on the side. So we want to be able to get really immediate, easy access to that date, and it would allow us to drill down and drill up. So the easiest way to do that is to create a new table that's going to work as our calendar table. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click new table. And whenever you do this, it's going to create, in the DAX language, it's going to create this kind of equation, which is going to reflect your new table. So over here on the table side, I'm just going to call it calendar, and let's make sure I spell it right. And then over here where it says equals, I'm going to do this really neat thing here. So you can type in this thing that says calendar auto. I'll go ahead and hit enter. What this is going to do is it's going to go and look at my other data set, and it's going to come up with all the possible calendar dates that it has available. And then if I want to actually allow some level of drill down, what I can do here is I'm going to go to new column, and I'm going to call this date here. And what I can do here is in this table is I can type in date, and look at this. This is very cool. So in old Excel, it's not that old, right? I might have to do something like a date function. You can see that it's here. I think it would be date value actually, or some related function. But here I don't have to do that. I actually have access to it as if it were a data type, right? So what I can do here is I can go ahead, I can select day. I'll hit enter on that. You see it's gonna, let's call that day. It's saying it doesn't like the word date because it's a reserved word. So I'll go ahead and call that day. You see it's going to go from 1 through 30 or 31 as the case may be. That's going to reflect the calendar day, so 1 through 30, 1 through 31, or 1 through 28, as the case may be. I'm going to go ahead and click New Column. And remember, every time you make a new column, you're going to name it on this left side. So here I'm going to type in month, and then I'm going to go over here. I can hit this bracket. If I hit the bracket, that's going to actually pull up the information that's within this table. So as I type this, I'm going to type in date. Now, it's probably a good idea, and if I were doing this for a client, I think what I would do is actually call this calendar date, not just call it date. But for here, I'm just going to let it go. The next thing I can do is I can type in month. I'll hit enter on that. And you see it's going to add in January. I'm going to go ahead and make a new column here. And we'll call this month number, like so. Again, all I have to do is square bracket, type in date. I'm going to hit that period to actually pull up the IntelliSense to get access to what I want. So I'll type in month number. Why not? And what else can I do? So we have that. What about the year? So I'm going to go ahead and hit new column. I'll go over here. We're going to type in year. Check this out. I love this. Type in date. Go down here. We'll hit year. So take a look at this. We have this date hierarchy. It's working how we want, and it's ready to go. So if I wanted to have access to these items, I could have immediate access to it. But I think for now what I'm going to do is I don't really need to see these. So I'm just going to hit hide and report view just so it doesn't bug me. I don't remember doing this with Alex. Maybe I did, and maybe you're watching this and thinking, yeah, you don't need that. So we'll find out. Okay, so I've taken care of that. One of the things you might notice is that some of the years have funky data, right? So instead of 2017, it got entered into as 1017. What can I say, right? This is a New York bureaucracy we're dealing with. But we're going to take what we have. I'm not going to deal with the data issues for right now. Feel free, as you go on your own learning journey, to do that yourself. Okay, so let's take a look at this here. I've gone over here and I've clicked on this little relationships tab. And if you've done work with Access before, you know that you can actually create relationships on the fly. So what we want to do is we actually want to line up this date here as our primary key, and we're going to link it to the date that the complaint was made. So complaint DT, I think that's our date right there. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to drag it here and see what it does. Okay, so it looks like it made that connection. I'm going to go ahead and just double click on this just so we can take a look and see if we like the connection it made. So I double clicked it. You could see that it made this link from our data. And look, that's a terrible name for that. So I should probably rename that. And it's linked it to the date here. It says it's a many to one, and it says it's a cross filter direction, single, and we'll make this relationship active. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. The reason I did that is because as we add date slicers and filters on it, that's going to be very important to help us do that work. So I'm going to go over here to our canvas. So the canvas is where you can draw your visuals. The first visual I'm going to draw is a world map. So, or I should just say map. I'm going to go ahead and click this. I've put it on here. You can see it's coming as a blank, but look, over here in the field well, we have all these different things that we can add on to it. So look, we have a latitude and a longitude. So I'm going to go drop the latitude here like that. And I'm going to go drop the longitude here. And now we need some sense of location, right? So I said we need some sense of location as I go through this, but you can see that it's already populated this information, right? I necessarily want it to show everything, or at least I want to have some sense of differentiation. So what I can do here is, I'm going to just make this bigger just for my own edification. What I can do here is I can go and change the different colors that I see in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go take this this is the jurisdiction description. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to drag that over into the legend right there. And as what you can see is that it's actually shown, it's done its best to really break down these different elements. So I'm looking at this. I don't really love this title up here. I don't think I need that. I don't really think I need the legend. So I'll go ahead and click on this paintbrush. Look at this. I can just turn it off like it's nothing. And then I'll turn off my title like it's nothing. So that was pretty cool. I like that. So maybe we'll make this just a little bit bigger. I'm trying to remember exactly how I did this before. The next thing I want to do is be able to slice this information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert a new slicer. So I'll click that here. You can see it's created a slicer over here. So I'm going to go take that. I'm going to put it like right over here. Why not, right? Put it right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this jurisdiction description. That's this over here. I'm going to just drop it right here. And one cool thing about Power BI is that once I've already done this, you can see it actually automatically populates this information. Now, notice I can only really select one of these at a time, so I don't really love that. One thing I might do is actually change the options here. So let's see here. What do I need to click on? This is where I try to remember how this works. So I'm going to go over here, click on this paintbrush. What I would like to do is, so I clicked on this paintbrush, right? That's our format tab. I went down here to selection controls. I'm going to put my select all one on because heck, why not? So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off single select. So that means that I can just select a few at a time if I'm interested. And take a look at this. Isn't this really cool? It just updates automatically. And look how quickly I made this, man. I really like this. All right, so now I have that set. The next thing I want to do is actually create a timeline type slicer. So I'm using timeline, which is, you know, the typical Excel nomenclature to talk about how to use, how to slice on time. So how can I do that? Well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to create another slicer. I'll just click it right there. You see it made it up here. So I'll go put this up here above it all. Why not, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. And the next thing I'm going to do is over here under my calendar, I'm going to take this date and I'm just going to drop it in like that. So you can see that it gives me a very interesting way to do a timeline here. But because the data is a little bogus in here, it's probably not the one I want to use. So what's a better way to do this? How did we do this on the old one? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click this drop down. And you see you get a lot of different types of options here. I'm going to go ahead and click relative. I think this is super, super cool, right? So this, I can do last, I can do next, I can do this. So I have last here. Let's say I just want to do the last 30 months. I'm going to go ahead and do that here. And we'll apply that filter. And you can see, I'll go ahead and click select all so we can see all of it. And you can see that it works. So let's try last 20 months. So look, the map changed, but we don't have a whole lot of information just yet. So maybe what I need to do is just add a little bit more information in. So what we can do is we can use cards. Cards are super cool. I love cards. Cards are a way to really summarize information and show it very, very quickly. So over here on our visualizations, I have a card. I'm going to just double click that. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to hit Control Z on that. So the reason it did that, if you're wondering, is because I had this selected. So make sure I'm going to select nothing. I'm going to go ahead with nothing selected and hit that card button. So over here, I have a card. Now let's say I want to figure out what is the incidence, right? What is the incident of crimes in a specific borough of New York? So what I could do here is I could actually just use this first column. It's our key, right? But I really just want the count. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to drop it into this fields here. And it comes up with the number of 15 million. So what I'm going to go down here, what I'm going to do here is I have these filters, right? But maybe I want to do a little bit more work with them. So we have that. What I'm going to do is, let's see here. We have a borough name, right? So this is the borough name here. I'm going to go take that and I'm going to drop it in our visual level filter, right? So I've dropped that in. And now look at this, right? It has these blanks. We don't really like those blanks, but they're here. We're going to deal with them, right? And then it has our 5 different boroughs. So all I need to do is I can click Bronx like that. So you see that's 2 million. I don't really love how it's summarizing that. So under the format, I'm going to go to data label. It says display units. Auto, we could do none. That's going to give us all of them, right? We could do thousands, right? We could do millions if we want. But That's, I think, where I'm going to stop is with the thousands. So I have this description here. It's not very good, right? So maybe what I want to do is to change that description under there. So let's see how I can do that. I'm going to go back here to our field well. And over here where it says fields, I can click rename. Now, this actually doesn't change the field that it's looking at. All it does is it just changed the text it's going to display. So here I can say I'm looking at Bronx, so I can type in crimes in Bronx, or if you live in New York, it's called the Bronx. So we'll hit enter here. And I'll hit Control C on that. I'll hit Control V to paste it. I'm going to put that right next to it, like so. Try to line it up. And I'm going to hit Control V again because I want to line it up again. So one of the annoying things I get stuck with, and I'll realign this all in a second. I'll hit Control V again. Looks like I tried to use my arrow keys. Looks like it's not going to like that. I'm going to drag this guy over here. And then I'm going to put my mouse over here and hit Control V. Well, it's still put it over there. So look, I'm learning as I go. I'm just like, I'm in it to win it, guys. All right, so we're going to put this over here. And then I think what we can do is, because the alignment here is just kind of annoying me, right? So I'm going to hold Control. I'm holding Control right now. I'm going to click all these if it lets me do it. Like that. And let's see here. Let's distribute horizontally. Okay, and then we're going to just align the top like that, just so they're all in the same. They're all in the same alignment. Okay, so we have crimes in the Bronx. I don't really love how it says it has this kind. It doesn't have commas in here, but that's something for another time. What I want to do here is I want to actually change this to our next data type. So I'm going to, or excuse me, our next borough that we want to report from. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to click this drop down here. I'm going to change this to Brooklyn, as you can see there. And once I've done that, I should go here and rename this. So let's go ahead and rename that to Brooklyn. And I'm going to go over here, and we want to make this Manhattan. So I'm going to unclick that. I'm going to hit this drop down here. I'm going to click rename. And I'm going to call this Manhattan. And I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to just keep on doing this. So let's go hit this drop down for the name. This is for Queens. That's where I used to live, out in Kew Gardens. So I'm going to hit rename here. Oh, and take a look at this. I was doing the sum. So I think what we need to do is the count. Although as I say that, I think it's going to come up with the same thing. But let's just be more explicit, because if I were doing this, right, and it wasn't in Excel, I'd be like, yeah, we need to be explicit about this. So I'm going to go ahead, crimes in Staten Island. And what happens, let's see here, we are summarizing. Let's take a look at this. We are summarizing by a sum, but let's go ahead and do a count. Yeah, I think this makes a lot more sense. So because we had numbers, remember, because we had numbers before, if you take a look at our data type or our data set, you know that this ADDRPCTCD, this right here, is actually an ID. So it's not something that should be summarized by a sum. And you can actually change that in the data set. The way you would do that is you would go back here, you'd click on that column, this complaint number here, and under modeling, under the data type, we could still keep it as a decimal number, and we can still keep it as a whole number, but under the data category, or excuse me, the data summarization, perhaps we'd want to do a count instead, and that would make it automatic. So once I have that count, these numbers look a lot better. And I'm going to go ahead and hit select all. And so, you could deselect it if you just wanted to know about Metro North, Long Island Railroad. Great places to ride. And you only wanted to know in the last 10 months. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter on that. So you see it came back as blank. So, I say the last 10 months, that's going to include this time right now, but our data set only goes up, I think, to like 2017. So it's got to be longer than that. But maybe what I want to know is in the last 1 year, right? So in the last year, do we have that data? No, we don't have that data. It's okay. So I'll put that here and you'll see that it updates automatically. So let's talk about how to create the last 2 items on our dashboard. So as you remember here, we have the total crimes over time. And then over here, we have crimes by category. So what I'm going to do here is add in this line chart. Let's go ahead and add in this line chart. And we have the date here. So I'm going to drop the date down here. That's going to put that data on our axis. And then again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this, I'm going to drop it into our values. And because I set that to automatically count, it's going to actually, it's going to do just that. So it's not going to sum it up anymore. What I can do here is I can actually drill this down even more, right? So if we drill down into the hierarchy, we go to quarters. I'm going to actually take this one off here. If we go per months, I really just want to go to the lowest level that we have here. So it looks like I'm doing this by day, but maybe what I want is everything, right? So what I'm going to do here, just to make sure that this all works, I think that I have everything right now because I've drilled down the farthest that we can go. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually knock off these filters here. So let's see here. I think what we'll just go ahead and click select all like that. And I'm just going to clear this filter here. We'll wait till this updates. So this is going by day. Let's drill up. So I think my problem was I hit these up and down things. These up and down things. These are what allow you to drill up and down. What I should have done is click on this right here. This is going to get us to the bottom of our, this is going to drill down everything. So not just one specific data point. And if I just keep doing this as I would like to do, perfect, right? So that's what we want. This is going to show me the complete time series and give us an idea. And look at this. What's really interesting to me about this is that there appears to be some seasonality in the crime. Who knew, right? All right, so I'm going to go here to the Format tab. I'm going to turn off the title because I don't much care for that. And then, if I wanted to, I might turn off these filters. But for now, we're just going to keep it. Because, look, I really am just very interested in how quickly you can create something like this. It's pretty cool. All right, so now that I've done that, let's see what other fun things I can do. And you could, if you wanted to, go ahead and add a title like I did before. The way you would do that, right, is you could go back to this title here. I don't really love the titles that they give, but if you wanted to, you might say like crimes over time, something like that. If I can spell time correctly, we'll get it right here. And then you could change the font color to be black. That's what I would probably like to do. And you could make it bigger if you'd like. I'll leave that to you if that's something that you would like to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to go click this one here. I'm going to move it up. And the next thing I want to do is I actually want to add the type of crimes we're looking at. So I'm going to go back to my query here and I'm going to find out. Okay, so look, we have this law category right here. So it's law cat CD, not the best name for it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this and you see it automatically put it down there, put it in the where I thought I'd want it. So I'm going to grab this here. I've dropped that law cat CD, right? That's going to give us our axis, but now we need something else, right? We need values. So again, I can just take this first one here and I'll just drop it in. You see this is felony, misdemeanor, and violation. So again, all I need to do here is I can flip this off. Let's say I wanted to do some other things, right? So let's see here. we took the title off. If I go ahead and click plot area, I could change the transparency if I want. I could add an image behind it. I'm going to turn my data labels on. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn my y-axis off. And you can see there's just a few other things you can do here. There's, there's different visual helpers. Those are these items here. I'd probably end up turning those off. You could add a border if you want. You could change the background. I think what I'm most interested in is I'm going to go ahead and click data colors here. That isn't what I was interested in. Let's see here if I can find it. Okay, I found it. All right, so we have this minimum category width, right? We have the maximum size. We have the inner padding. If I just knock that inner padding down to 0, what you can see here is that they actually touch, which is what I did in my other model. So one other thing here is I can also slice on these. So if I go ahead and click felony, you can see it actually updates the entire map. And finally, I'm looking at these here. And I don't love this data label, right? So it has them in thousands. I thought that if I did that, I'd like it more, right? So it has them in millions. What if we go ahead and click none? That gives us the total amount. I don't really love that either. Let's see if I can change this to 0. Okay, so that's what I think I want to do. So I haven't actually tried this yet, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and hold Control. I'll click this one here. It seems when you hold Control and you click it, it takes a second. Maybe that's because they're overlapping. Alex told me that Power BI wasn't designed to be a thing where you can overlap stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and hit 0 on that. Whew, that looks a lot better. It gives me, I feel this visceral intuitiveness of how it should look. So I'm going to go ahead and double click this down here. I'm going to call this a crime dashboard. Don't tell Microsoft. These are technically not dashboards. They are Power BI reports. But look how quickly I made this. This wasn't that much time at all. And look how functional it is. Now look, this ain't perfect. I know that. There's a lot of things that are sort of bugging me in it. For instance, all this data could be a lot better. I would love to rename some of these and knock out the ones I don't need. That would probably make it go a lot faster. I didn't add the title as I did in my other one. I'm going to leave that to you. But if you wanted to add a title or something like that, you can go to the Home tab. There's text box, images, things like that. Feel free to do that kind of work on your own. But look at this. We used just a minimal amount of DAX to create our calendar. And outside of that, it was literally just drag and drop. And you saw me, I made mistakes, but Power BI allowed me to easily correct them. Well, thanks for staying with me, everyone. Like what you saw? See room for improvement? I'm sure you do. Let me know in the comments. And for more awesome content, subscribe. Let's spread that message of helping everyone excel at what they do. And if you want access to the report, not dashboard, the data, and other resources in which you can continue your learning, go ahead and click on the link in the comments. Well, everyone, I thank you for joining me. And until next time, keep on excelling.